Well, hey there, I am Pops, and this is a review of 13 Lives. It's an Amazon Prime and Amazon Studios production directed by Ron Howard, and gave it a watch. It's based on a true story. It's the Thailand cave rescue of about, 12 boys, and their coach was trapped in some caves in Thailand where the monsoon rains came early, trapped them inside, and they had to have this big rescue mission on how to get them out. So, give you a general idea of pros and cons, what's good, what's not so good. Anyway, so spoilers ahead. If you like what I'm saying here, feel free to give me a comments and connect to the channel accordingly. All right, so first things first, it's Ron Howard, right? So Ron Howard is a solid director. Ron Howard is not some great innovator. He is not going to rock the boat. This was a nice, safe film to make with a nice, safe director telling a very generic, benign rescue human interest story, basically. Uh, yeah, it's about as engaging as that poster. Like, there's no real big thing. It's all about this stacking of the drama of how and when they can save these boys and their coach. And Viggo Mortensen's in it. Um, Colin Farrell, Joel Edgerton. So nice, solid cast. Nice, safe cast. Bigger names, but not like massive names. Everyone's really, really solid, right? So the story is we're in Thailand. The kids are playing soccer and they're going to have a birthday party. But before they decide to do so, they decide to head out to this caves. Not supposed to rain. It's a little early this season, but they do. It comes and the rain is completely out of control. They have this backstory of this like geologist who's mapping the area and that kind of thing. So anyway, long story short, the kids are trapped in the cave. It's going to be really hard to find them. No one knows how to get down in there in this much water. Very dangerous. They have this little graphic that keeps coming up on screen. It'll show chamber 3, chamber whatever, how far away they are from the entrance and that kind of thing. So day one starts like that. All the parents start freaking out because it's already night. One of the SEALs that are trying to get down in there already got hurt trying to navigate all of this, and nobody knows where the boys even are. So volunteers start showing up. People are trying to pump water out. The geologist he's like talking to the mountain, going to see some old guy, trying to figure out how to divert the water, I guess is the premise. So it kind of comes up later. Anyway, so long story short, there is a lot of fact checking that you can kind of do to kind of get some of the story. And I guess there really is this guy. He's like this groundwater expert from, he spent time in America, but he's also from Thailand. Anyway, so he's there and he is part of this whole thing. Once the reports hit the TV, you start to get the word out globally. The government start reaching out, and that's where you get introduced to Rick Stanton, which is the Viggo Mortensen character, and John Volanthen, I think is how you say Volanthen, Colin Farrell's character. And they're basically like these expert cave divers. Like they can scuba dive in these holes. They do rescue missions, and this is actually like a thing. Like I had verified that's an actual thing. There's called the British Cave. I wrote it down. Hold on, let me find it. British Cave Rescue Council. It was established in 1967, and it's for cave rescues. And they go around, and that's what they do. They have special cave divers. The ones that are mentioned on this website was also some of the ones that were in the movie. So obviously those two, Jewell was mentioned, Jason was mentioned. These kinds of names were mentioned. So anyway, at some point, the flooding is so bad that the local politician, there's like a big political battle here too with the local governor and the higher ups wanting him to resign or he's not going to be in power anymore. So there's all this like, we don't want to risk anybody else's life. And then these guys show up. They're the experts, but they don't know if they want to let them go or not. And they're like, oh, we don't want to be responsible for you. And Viggo Mortensen's character is very abrasive. Like John is set up, Colin Farrell's character is set up to be like the family guy with his son. And Rick is like the lonely old coot. This is all he is and does, right? And we don't want foreigners to die in the cave. And they're like, hey, we don't want to die either. I have zero interest in dying. That's not my thing. Dying. It's supposed to be funny. Kind of works. Kind of doesn't work. Anyway. So anyway, they finally let them go down. They have a really hard time getting down in there. The graphic keeps showing up. They have a pump guy. He gets hurt, and they barely get him out. And because he panics, he doesn't know what to do. He's underwater, so he panics. He won't follow the instructions. So now it sets up the fact that how we're going to get children out, right? The graphic keeps showing up. So it's day 5, day 6, day 7, whatever, right? The media, I will say one of the best parts about it was how well they portrayed how negative the media is. The media reports that keep coming in are always negative, always about, oh, they're going to run out of air. They're going to have carbon dioxide poisoning. How are they going to do this? How are they going to do this? So the media is the media, right? So anyway, parents don't really know what to do. Military doesn't know what to do. John and Rick are like, we can do this. You know, we're wired different than your SEALs. Just give us a chance, right? There's of course more cutaways and conversation to this water guy on the mountain because he's supposed to matter enough, and I don't ever really get connected enough to him to care too much, but he's there. Anyway, so Rick and John are finally going to go. There's like a prayer thing where these monks are walking through and chanting, and the rescue, everyone's trying to be very respectful. It does show their culture a lot. It does show how much the people have a faith and they believe in all of this faith that it will help bless the divers and give them to their kids. So the rains finally do stop and the pumps are working enough. And John and Rick are allowed to just kind of go scout everything out, like figure it all out. And when they do, they finally get to where the boys are. This is a special little place. And they're all alive. All 13 people are alive. The 12 boys and the coach are alive. There's some language barrier there, but they get it figured out, leave them with flashlights and said, you know, we're gonna figure this out. And I love it. They come out, I think there's a little line about the old men found the boys. I love that. I actually cracked up. I thought it was funny. Anyway, Rick is like, there's no way we're getting them out. They're going to be dead. It's like they're going to panic like the other guy did. There's not a way to get them out. What are we going to do? So now everyone's ticked off at Rick. He's a complete jackwagon. The cave is sad and depressing. And the coach is portrayed as like the spiritual leader because he talks about like there's not enough about the coach though. It's just like we have pieces of all sorts of different characters, but not a lot to grab onto and care about. But the coach is like, don't let the fear, corrupt your minds, and teaches them to meditate. Anyway, the accents are a trouble. So Rick's having a hard time talking to the other divers, trying to get them all sort of like worked out, how to get down there. It's very long, dangerous. It gets very narrow. At one point they don't have enough rope. They got to figure out how to add more rope so they don't get lost. Anyway, it moves along pretty well. You do get like a couple shots of this one mom in particular, the governor, all of these different elements to figuring out how to deal with the situation and what to do. Rick is the one who's given credit with coming up with this idea of calling Harry, which is Richard Harris, which is Joel Edgerton's character. He's basically an anesthesiologist and a diver. So the premise is they're going to put the boys to sleep and then float them out, like lead them out like a package, right? Put them under. Well, obviously, this is not done right away. You have some more time is spent on life in the cave as far as they have letters and food, and they got to get the doctors there. So he shows up there, and you have one of the Navy divers, I think, dies, like gets stuck, panics, loses air, he dies. So now there's even more anxiety because we're like 2 weeks into this. The boys are on like, rations that they can take down there and all of that. A doctor's checking them out, those kinds of things. They got to figure out if this anesthesiologist project could work, and then they got to pitch the local government, do all the language barriers to even get permission to try this thing, right? So, long story short, it does work. They get their one kid out and another kid out. Each diver's got one kid, and then the next day they're going to do it again. And Rick's like, because everyone gets so excited, thinking that they're like miracle workers, that it's like, well, yesterday if we had one kid out, we'd be heroes. Now, if anyone dies, we're villains. So the news is the news is the news. The news is all about bad news. Like an antagonist in this film is the weather and the news. The weather, because that's what they're battling against, and the news, because it's your spirit and you're trying to be hopeful, everyone trying to be optimistic, and yet the news is always like, oh, it's going to rain more tomorrow, it's going to be bad, they're running out of oxygen. Yeah, whatever. So the water's rising because it's raining again, and the pumps break, and it's the geologist that kind of saves the day. Like he figures out a way to reroute more water. Parents are thankful. They get all these kids out, all this stuff. Anyway, so there's a lot of human stuff in this. It's like a lot of like push and pull at heartstrings, and you don't get enough of any one character, because I think that the writer was trying to include as much of the true story, and there's just so many people. Like, we get a little dose of how cool the coach is. We get a little dose of that John's a family guy and a nice guy. The Joel Edgerton guy, he's the doctor. And he shows up and he's like, I don't want to do this. I've never tried this before. This is crazy. And then you find out, well, his dad is also very ill. And then they save all the boys, and that's all well, great. Everyone wants to celebrate. He found out his dad actually dies. So you have all this human drama, like the geologist stuff, the one concerned mom, the politics. You have just so much stuff happening, and yet nothing really grabs you much. Like when the at the end of the movie, when the parents are seeing the boys in the hospital because they're under like they're all getting medical attention, that's a little bit emotional, but I didn't get like teared up or anything. Like it was touching, not like heart-wrenching, not like emotionally. And there's some tension because the film is well executed. The film is filmed well. The performances are fine. It's just sort of one of those things that the topic and the scenario and everything like that can only grip you so much and engage you so much. And I think that you can enjoy it. It can be on. It's just a drama. But I can't see this as being like a rewatchable thing. I think that it was probably best for being on a streaming service, because this goes to the movie theater. You might make a little bit of money week one, but it's a pretty hard sell. Like, find the right week that you could sell it maybe in the fall. It's not really Oscar worthy. It's not quite good enough. There's just nothing real special about it. It's okay. It's okay on all levels. No one did anything bad. No one did anything great. There's no great moment to praise. There's no, oh, you got to see this one part or that part. It's like, it's all very serviceable. It's all very milquetoast, if you will. So there you go. That's my thoughts on it. Some of the after credit scenes were kind of it's cute because you can see they have their little birthday party. Citizens get their citizenship because they weren't really Thai. Things like that. Like, it's all very fine. It's all nice and happy and pleasant stuff, but nothing that was like earth shattering or great. So if you have Prime, it's free. You want to have something on like that, fair enough. So anyway, that's my take on this. You can tell me that I'm completely crazy. You think it's great, you think it's terrible, you let me know, or you have another recommendation that you want me to try to review and get to. I'll be more than happy to try to fit some of those in. So anyway, thank you for your time, and I'm Pops.